bump issue right here for a while on hand. Do we know about when they'll get started? Will it be this summer?
It's this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just been pushed back because they were gonna do it 1 week and then we had the magic movement stuff going on, so they didn't want to block off that entrance. So we just pushed it till summer.
Okay. And then,
I did have a question for the revamp at RBT for the playground. Since that's looking to start in August, do we have a plan for those kids for elsewhere?
It shouldn't affect like the playground, they're just
Oh, it
gonna
shouldn't?
add to it.
Oh,
It
okay.
might be closed for a couple of days and they use the bulldozer to level out some of that ground, but I
Okay.
don't think it's gonna be a big deal. They can use the field when they're doing the playground, they can use the playground when they're doing the field, put in the soccer
okay.
goals and stuff like that.
I didn't know if it was gonna take weeks or.
yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
So all these projects that are listed, like the DTMS concrete, the playground, the turf, that's gonna be all summer projects.
All summer projects.
Can you tell me a little bit more on the Zero Eyes that we're looking into?
Sure, it's basically, it's an AI software that integrates with our camera system. So if somebody walks onto our campus and they start pulling out a gun, that software automatically sees that and alerts Zero Eyes, and then Zero Eyes notifies us and the authorities.
And the software will start tracking automatically, right? It'll start tracking. the
Yeah, it
individual.
starts recording video and everything, so when the cops get on site, they can actually, have that video and track
Have
that
access
person
to it.
exactly where they're going.
Oh,
But
nice.
it's gonna be
That's gonna be.
a pretty big cost from the estimates we have coming in, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can afford it, because it's really nice software.
Thank you for looking into that. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Any others for Ryan? Okay, Scott's at the athletic banquet, so any questions on the high school?
I don't think so. I just think it's pretty amazing about the kids being able to go to the Quiz Bowl in Chicago and
Yeah.
and getting that experience.
And then November Faust.
At November Faust.
Mhm.
On competition. It's cool. And thank you for, I don't know who's been displaying the kids in the newspaper. It's really nice to see them
Mhm.
and their hard work displayed to the county.
And a shout out to Mrs. Walter and her art class for getting those blocks painted in front of the school.
Yes, they look nice.
So, color.
And thanks to the junior sponsors.
Yeah.
And teachers for the prom.
And any other questions on that? or
No,
statements?
and congratulations out to Mr. Baca and his
His fourth graduate.
Right.
automotive and
Yeah.
welding students on their competitions and on their graduation.
Right, and along the lines of Mr. Baca, next year, on our CTE grant, we're bringing in an alignment rack, and he'll be certified, so when our high school students finish, they'll be able to be certified at least, right now, there's no certification for the high school level that we have. They'll be certified at least on the Hunter alignment systems, so that'll be a certification, they can, just like they did with the welding. Except it's, the welding is an associate, or not associate, but a certificate from Western, this will be a certificate from Hunter.
Nice. It's good.
That'll be good.
Positive things.
Any questions on Raquel's on the DPMS? We did put in for the name change. We have not heard back from the state. We've asked for it to be in effect July 1. So starting July 1, hopefully it will be just DTMS middle school, grades 5 through 8. And they also showed, they were real proud of their results. She included her math scores showing that they went up quite a bit.
That's great.
And this will probably be proof, right, if the state asks us for like the 180 days or anything like that? No.
Well, I don't know if they're gonna ask us anything. It's just gonna be them saying this and then everybody else saying, well, no, it doesn't work.
Put this into evidence
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
lawyer, so the judge has
Yeah.
please.
Yes, ma'am. And then, Sue?
I'll keep mine short. Like always. I just have two things. We're wrapping up the whole school year. A lot of things are going on. I just want to spotlight that tomorrow, you're welcome to come to RBT by 10 o'clock. The seniors will be doing their little walkthrough. And a lot of parents have put up posters of when they were in RBT and just kind of seeing them grow up. So everybody's welcome, and I just want to spotlight our CLR training that we had on Friday and Saturday. It was about being responsive to students' learning needs, but through a different lens, which is more of a culture of how they are culturally active in learning and all that. So I just want to put a shout out for that. That's it. Thank you.
And we did have, how many from out of town? We had some from
Couple of
Belen,
people from
from,
town, from
Las Cruces.
somebody from Socorro.
yeah,
So
came in
we
for
did
that
have-
training, yeah.
Thank you for putting the fourth grade awards, celebration awards.
That was the best.
A lot of positive feedback from parents there, so thank you.
I'm glad we want to make them know that we really care about them, but they're moving on, so. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sue?
Thank you.
Anything on the, so again, go Troopers at the athletic, any questions on?
No, nothing.
Okay. And then on CNC, 71 contacts with parents for April, and this will be the last truancy report of the year. They'll be off contract next month, so. Any questions on that?
No.
No. Anybody email for a public forum or anything?
We'll move on to item 6 for Board of Education issues. Dr. Lucas.
So just a reminder, law conference, I know we've already got the yays and nays, but I just want to remind, so it's May 30th through June 1st in Albuquerque. So any questions on that or anything? Okay, and then we have the New Mexico School Board Association Student Achievement Awards. And we have 3 to give out tonight. First one, we'll go to Robert Keel. And Laura, come up here because we need to get a picture. Brian's gonna take pictures.
I take the pictures, but I'm not.
School board, turn your name in and just says presented by the New Mexico School Board Association in cooperation with the local school board of education and recognizing the outstanding role played in improving student achievement.
Thank you.
I'll let you hand it to you.
For the picture,
Yeah, and,
do you want to hold it?
Took a couple, just.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the things that I do, I enjoy doing because I get to be with the kids.
And you forgot to give your doggy treat for your dog.
Well, yeah. You get to go with us on.
Yeah, well, that's why, you forgot the doggy treat.
So, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. And the next one to give out is to Michelle Culberson.
Thank you so much.
She knows how to hold it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last one to give out is to Ryan Cheney.
I didn't hear that.
I know.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, running apart without you.
Thank you, Mary, for putting up with me.
Yeah.
Make our insurance go up.
Thank you all very much. We do
Yes.
appreciate everything. Everybody does.
Yes,
We
thank you
appreciate
guys.
it. And then next up, we have the DTMS Film Showcase.
Yay.
We'll turn it over to you.
Plug in or something. We could use mine. Okay. Let's see here.
Do you have any of your students here? Do they want to?
Yeah, I will serve them.
Ah, there they are. I didn't see them.
Students? Michaela.
Oh.
And what's your name?
For now.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't.
I guess just real quick is, but, I mean, these 2 students and then 3 other students, I only have 5 throughout the whole, from my whole class, but, just basically show them on how to make films and like how important it is inside the New Mexico, industry for filmmaking. And that they all learned on how to write it, and, well, they all wrote their own stuff, and they all did the work themselves and did the editing themselves. I was just there to guide them for it. We did go to Albuquerque for this Film Prize Film Festival, which is a New Mexico state theme for all schools. Really, it's not like a New Mexico A type of theme, but it's their own program, but they are just within the state, and they provide scholarships and funding for schools and everything like that for if they win certain categories or anything like that. We went for the middle school part, and we didn't win, but because there were 87 schools that participated, and there was 167 films that were there that we were up against. And, they had a big experience about that. They learned all the what to do, what not to do for next year. Some of them are pretty excited to go again next year too. So I'm like, okay, let's keep working at it. But these 2 movies, we showed them Friday night. I'm not gonna play all 5 of them. I'm just gonna show just their 2 that they made. And then if you guys have any questions for them, you can ask them or ask me, whichever one. But yeah, we just wanted to basically show our hard work.
Well, thank you for coming.
John.
Okay. All right, guys. I think it's enough. I'm ready for this hike now. What about you girls? Are you guys ready?
Yeah, let me just pack some stuff.
Yeah.
Give me like 5 minutes. I'll catch up with you guys. I'm setting up my camera. It's gonna be live.
All right. See you in a minute. Oh, there it is. All right, guys. I think it's enough. I'm ready for this hike now. What about you girls? Are you guys ready?
Yeah, let me just pack some stuff. Give me like 5 minutes. I'll catch up with you guys. I'm setting up my camera. It's gonna be live.
All right. See you in a minute. Okay. Right up here real quick.
That was creepy.
What's wrong? You seem shaky.
It's nothing. I'm fine. I thought I saw something, but it was nothing.
Hey guys, I found this really creepy spot. It's really weird. I think you guys are gonna love this. Let's go check it out.
Okay.
Check this out, guys. Oh, Lord, this is weird. Like, look at this.
Bones.
What? Dude, oh, what? Look.
Wait, let me see that. Hey, it says our names.
Is that my name?
What?
It says die.
This is getting really weird, guys.
Yeah, maybe we should close that up. Cause
Don't worry, guys. This is all good content. Like, don't worry about it. What was that? What's going on, guys? Oh, dude, what is going on? Oh.
I've seen enough. Let's get out of here.
No, this is really good stuff, guys. Like, just a little bit longer. Okay,
I really
maybe.
don't like this.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, let's get going. Let's get going. Let's go. What was that?
Where did it go? I don't see him anymore.
What's on me?
Oh. That was Jonathan's. You wrote that one. And then went out to just the backyard over there.
I would have been scared.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then this one was by Michaela.
Don't worry, guys. I'll make new friends. Yeah, Mom, I'll be ready in a second. Everything will be fine.
Nervous?
Kind of.
Don't be. It's your first day. Just don't let anybody get into your head.
I know, Mom. I will.
We're here. I hope you have a great day. I love you.
I love you too, Mom. Where is everyone? This is weird. Maybe I'm late.
Hi. What are you doing here? Hi. It's my first day at high school here, and I was just wondering what to do. You know that you're dead, right? What? No, I'm alive. No, you're not. You're dead, Jenny. What? Yeah, you're dead. No, I'm not. No, wake up, wake up, wake up. Mom, Bob, where are you? Who's there? Hello?
Y'all have any?
Good job, kids.
Sounds cool.
I know, like, all of them, they all wanted to write, horror films.
Thank you guys for sharing them with us.
Yeah,
They were
appreciate
wonderful.
it.
Yeah, and they do, like I said, they do plan on going back to the film festival for next year, because like, we were talking to the directors and everything that run the program, and, they really enjoyed having those kids there and everything, and they really loved us being there, because like, I think Lordsburg was the furthest school to go up there to Albuquerque. They really enjoyed that, because they're trying to reach more and more students who participate, but they're looking forward to having their films go back again next year. But even though they'll be at the high school, but still just trying to work something out with them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you.
I'll stop a bit.
Mhm.
I guess we'll move on to item number 7, consent agenda. So look at the approval of accounts payable and payroll liability transactions.
Any questions on any of the checks or anything?
I had one. It's the very first one on the list, the 31732.
Uh-huh.
What is that?
They reissued a check, but it doesn't say who to. Can you pull that up for me?
I could, I know that it's definitely like a garnishment, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it was a check reissue, so
I just never seen that name on there before.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was curious what it was for. That was the one that really caught me.
You guys have any other questions?
Are we doing better on people cashing their checks?
I was just looking at yeah, and we are doing better. But I think
not
there's-
perfect.
Yeah.
And we have like a check will be voided after X
Yeah.
amount of time, and we are voiding them after that time.
Or reissuing it. If it's like a payroll check, for example, and we try to get them to cash it. But most of the time we'll just void that one and reissue it, so it's like got a fresh 90 days. But then it only goes so long before eventually we
It
have
just
to-
comes off the books.
Yeah. But I try not to void them unless I have to.
Okay.
And they have 90 days to cash in.
And it might even be, and it varies by bank, but I think that's what's printed on our check.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I will entertain a motion for the approval of accounts payable and payroll liability transactions.
I'll make the motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll liability transactions.
Motion by Mrs. Cole, do I have a second?
Second motion.
Second by Mr. Della O. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of budget adjustment requests.
Actually, we don't have any, so
Okay.
I'm surprised.
Okay, so discussion items.
Right, I just wanted to, so far, for the federal grants, we've done the Title I and the CTE. Title I, we had about 250,000. It's all going towards salaries, basically, and then we had our CTE grant, which is what I was telling you, that's what we're buying, the alignment rack and stuff like that. We have about 100,000 in CTE, the alignment rack and all the equipment for the alignment's about 82,000. And then the rest goes to supplies, materials, stuff like that. This BED is running way behind me because none of the other, IDAB, the other grants are not available to even fill out yet. And normally we have deadlines by which they already have turned in, but they're not even available yet. So we'll get them as soon as they come in. Any questions on those?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 9, action items. Under discussion and approval of SLP contract services.
Right, so we had 2 submit for the SLP. We had George Burnett and then National Recruiting Consultants. We recommended George's, his scores were a lot higher. His hourly rate's a little higher, but he's been with the district 16 years and he's done a very good job with us. The other company, National Recruiting Consultants, they didn't follow the RFP instructions completely. They didn't provide references like they were supposed to, and the mandatory specs they didn't follow as written. So they didn't score near as well. And it just let us wonder that if they can't follow the RFP procedures, how are they gonna be? So we highly recommend George for another 3-year contract.
I'll make a motion to accept George Burnett for the next 3 years as our SLP.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Cole and seconded by Mrs. Esquivel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll move on to discussion and approval of the 2024-25 operating budget.
It's on you, Brian.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Lucas, good evening. So to kind of follow up on our budget meeting that we had, I believe it was a week ago, what I have prepared tonight is a quick budget presentation for the FY25 budget. And so we will go through this together. We do have, in addition to this, we'll go through a budget analysis, just some highlights, quick summary. We'll go through the revenues, we'll go through the expenditures, and then I do have the 910B5, which is our operational SEG, which we kind of went through last week. I won't spend too much time on that. Our salary schedules, and then our school calendar for FY25. So at any time, if anyone has any questions, just interrupt me and I'll do the best that I can to answer them. So, so we did balance the budget, we did use anticipated revenues, however, we did have to use a little bit of our cash carryover, which I kind of mentioned in our budget meeting. The dollar figure for that estimated cash carryover at the time we've been putting this together was $230,121 of cash carryover. However, I will say that just in the short time that we did the budget meeting through today, I received one letter saying that they were giving us additional funding for community schools, which is going to be in our SEG. And then this morning, I got an email saying that our NUPCIA insurance and medical benefits were actually going down. It sounded like they had kind of negotiated something with that. And so I would expect that the use of the cash carryover might actually be lower than what I used to balance the budget, because just in that short amount of time, we're getting a little bit more money than what was used to put together this budget. Just some highlights: the unit value for FY25 is $6,442.55. That represents about a 3.22% increase to the FY24 unit value. And then I just have some quick highlights. In our SEG, we're getting about 36.57% more funding for our ancillary FTEs in FY25 than what we got in FY24. That's really just due to an increase in FTE. Some other things to note: we did have a small decrease on our TCI funding, about 9.52%. I mentioned that the unit value went up 3.22. Our at-risk index, it actually went up as far as the multiplier goes, but we did have a small decrease in enrollment. So net it was almost like breaking even. This medical rate number is now outdated given the email this morning, but it's pretty close, 15.53. I think what I saw this morning was they're going to try to cap this at about 10% increase for FY25. But what all this means is that I'm probably over budgeted for benefits now, which is good because we're probably more conservative. And then here I just have some statewide changes. So 3% raise for all employees, 5% increase for dental, 3% increase for vision insurance. I did mention that our risk premium insurance, the insurance we pay on our buildings, our vehicles, everything, it had increased 26.31% compared to FY24. This was also in the email that I received this morning, and I'm still going to get additional information, but it looked like they were going to try to cap this at a 15% increase, or 14.99, I think is what I saw. But again, that would just mean that we're over budgeted a little bit, so that's okay. Other things to note: there is a 0.012 multiplier for days over 155, 0.16 for 165. This is, of course, based off of 4-day weeks, assuming that still stands. And all schools must meet a minimum 1,140 instructional hours. I do have the minimums. None of these really changed from FY24, so we're basing it off a $15 minimum wage, $25,000 minimum salary for EAs, $50,000 for level 1 teachers, level 2 teachers $60,000, level 3 teachers $70,000, and then our principal minimums are listed here. This is statute, of course, and these are based off of a factor of a level 3 teacher. So just a quick summary. So total budget for FY25 is $14.9 million. That includes projected revenues and cash carryover. So total projected revenue included in the budget is roughly about $11.1 million. And we did estimate about $3.78 million of cash carryover. That's a mix of cash from our operational fund, our debt service fund, our capital projects funds. That's all cash carryover in that 3.7 number. SEG in FY25 is approximately $92,000 more than what we received in FY24, but we'll go through the expenditures next. And I kind of talked about this in our budget meeting, which is that represents the increase in our revenue. However, we have 3% raises, we have increases in benefits, insurance. So that $92,000 is by far not enough to cover the increase in expenditures. And that is ultimately why we did have to use cash carryover to balance the budget. In addition to that, we did, in the current year, FY24, have our ESSER 3 funding, which was a large federal award that helped us with just the day-to-day operations of the district. That has been fully expired, and we do not have that in our budget for FY25. that represents a large chunk of expenditures that needed to be absorbed by the operational fund. And we'll go through the expenditures in a little bit more detail. So I do have just a graph here to kind of show just our general fund, meaning our operational local funds, our transportation, our food service, our athletics, makes up about 63% of our overall budget. 11% is our special revenue. These consist of our federal flow through and any state and local grants. And then 9% of our budget is our capital outlay. And then 15% of our budget consists of debt service. And then we do have a small amount here for our activity funds. Activity funds, this represents the cash that our activity funds are carrying over into the next fiscal year. I don't really budget revenues for activity funds. I usually just start the year with however much cash they have. And as revenue comes in throughout the year, you'll see an increased bar to kind of get that. If the high school cheer team had a big fundraiser, for example, then you would see that money come in, and I would then increase the budget at that time. So total budget, 14.8 million in revenue and cash. And here I just have a kind of a list of the various funds that the district receives. I'll just kind of elaborate on what Dr. Lucas was just talking about, which is that there are a lot of funds that I have not received the award letters for FY25, and that's kind of uncommon at this time to not have things like IDB, especially. But if it was a fund that I could place a high level of confidence on that we get every year, such as IDB, I would just budget for next fiscal year the same amount that we received in the current year. So if you look at any of these amounts that you see, for example, transportation, which I just got this award this morning, they're the same amount. That's because prior to this, I didn't have FY25 numbers, so I just build a budget based off assuming we'll get the same amount this year, or next year, I should say. And same with the federal funds. So while we don't have an award for Idea B, I feel highly confident that we will receive that award, so I just budget the same amount. Biggest thing to note here is kind of what I was mentioning, the decrease in ESSER 3, having spent that down and not having those funds available. Just a quick way to look at that is that in FY24's budget, we did budget about $1 million of our ESSER funds were included in the fiscal year 24 budget. And so those expenditures either needed to be eliminated going into FY25 or absorbed by other funds if possible. And so Dr. Lucas and myself and my team, we just really looked at what was needed, what we needed to maintain, and that's what got moved into operational for FY25. And so just an example of that would be, so let's say we had a teacher that was paid for using ESSER funds, that position is now either absorbed in another federal fund such as Title I, if possible, and if there was no other fund that could absorb that, then it went into operational, assuming that the position was still needed for next year, which we didn't eliminate any positions. So all in all, because of the decrease in our ESSER funding, we're looking at about 8.67% less revenue going into FY25 than what we received in FY24. That will kind of change as we get some other funds in here, but I feel like that's a pretty conservative estimate, and that's what we use to build the budget for next year. Next, we have our program cost review. We did go over this in detail at the budget meeting, so I won't spend too much time on this. This is just our 910B5, which is our operational fund. This is just kind of putting it into dollar terms so that you can see where we are increasing funding or losing funding in our operational SEG. And this is, again, just a quick reminder, this is just where our enrollment is our input, and it gets multiplied by various factors and then multiplied by the unit value to give us a per dollar amount. And so here at the bottom, you can see FY24, our SEG was about 7.25. Next year, FY25, we're getting about 7.34. And that's where that $92,000 increase is. And total SEG about 1.28% more next year. But this is just breaking down from a membership standpoint so we can kind of identify any large increases or decreases. And I kind of mentioned before, but the biggest increase was our ancillary funding, and you can see that our 2.29 turned into 3.03, and that ultimately resulted in about an extra 130,000 for the district in FY25. So now we'll go into the expenditures. So I like to put these graphs here just to kind of visualize where the budget is being allocated. And so we did, like I said, we did balance the budget using cash carryover. That was really related to the discontinuance of our ESSER funding, and then just the mandatory increases that we had to absorb with less revenue. I just want to highlight real quick, we did have the following cash carryover. So about 720,000 is operational, 573 is SB9, which is the capital outlay fund. Our Medicaid is carrying over about 372,000. Student activity funds, 165,000. Our bond building fund, about 380,000, and then our debt service, about 1.2 million. And so focused just on operational, I have this pie chart here that kind of shows where our operational funding is being allocated. And so looking at this, I think the ones that most people are concerned with is instruction and classroom support. And so out of our operational fund, about 67% of our operational fund is being spent on the classroom or instruction. And that's pretty comparable to other districts in similar size. The smaller the size of the district, the harder it is to have a higher percentage. And that's just because our fixed costs eat up so much of that. The larger the district, they can hit numbers like 75% on instruction. But that's because the fixed costs don't make up as large of a chunk of their operation. So this is comparable to other districts and other schools a similar size. So next, I just have a kind of a bar chart to show this lighter colors represent the prior year and the darker colors represent FY25. This is all funds by function. So this includes capital outlay, debt service, not just our operational. And you can kind of just see comparison prior year, or I should say current year to next year, those increases. And so this really represents those 3% raises, the increases in benefits, and then just, for the most part, administration went down just a little bit. But for the most part, everything's costs more. And so it's just to kind of give you a visualization of all funds and where that money is being allocated. So drilling down a little bit further, we go to our object code. So this is kind of more what the funds are actually being allocated towards. And so 66% of our operational fund is being allocated to compensation and benefits, 12% contract services, 6% supplies, and then 16% debt service and miscellaneous expenditures. And then doing the same thing, showing prior year or current year, next year, by object code to kind of give you a visualization of where those funds are being allocated. So personnel costs by far make up the largest chunk of our budget. And so what I did here is I did include just a small table that kind of breaks out by position, the number of FTEs, salary, benefits, and then the total cost. For the budget for fiscal year 25, I am budgeting for approximately 81.72 full-time equivalent positions. And this just kind of gives you a quick breakout of, for example, 16 EAs, total salary for all 16, about 421,000, 210,000 for benefits. So you can see it's like almost 50% for benefits, and then the total cost for all that. So all in all, about $6,056,000 for personnel expenditures. And then non-personnel costs, this represents other expenses, just kind of highlighting some of the bigger items, and things that we need to have, such as utilities, IT services. And to kind of give you an idea, I know I've already talked about this, but when I build the budget, we start with personnel as kind of that foundation. And then we put in fixed costs, knowing what we have to budget for. And then from that, we continue to just kind of build upon that. And that's where we end up with these items, which is like our supplies, materials, our training, our other expenses. And then lastly, our reserves. And so just kind of small tables here to kind of showing just the non-personnel costs and how those funds are allocated. And then just keep in mind that this is just giving us that starting point on July 1, and that these numbers are just estimates based off of what we spent in the current year and prior years, trying to get as close as we can to try to get a good idea of how much do we normally spend, for example, on board travel or on instructional materials in a given year. And that's kind of what we do to build the budget. But then as the year goes on, we'll just kind of keep an eye on this and reallocate if needed. If we're not using budget in a particular line item, we can reallocate it somewhere where maybe we are using a little bit more. But this is just to get us a budget to start with in the next fiscal year. So nothing's set in stone, but it does get us that starting point. Then some reserves. I am budgeting about almost 500,000 in reserves. Most boards like to aim for about 5% of our SEG in cash reserves, and I think we're actually well above that 5%. I can calculate it real quick just to give you an exact number. So roughly about 6.7% is currently what I have budgeted for cash reserves going into FY25. So, which I feel confident with. I always try to encourage at least a 5% capital reserve. The only thing to keep in mind is we cannot continue to build a budget using cash carryover. So hopefully we'll get an increased unit value. Hopefully enrollment will come up and we'll get additional funding. But it's not sustainable to consistently use cash every year. And so it's something that we'll just continue to monitor throughout the year and try to make it to where it's not just a common thing. But because we have the cash balance available, this gave us a chance to kind of just maintain the status quo without having to do any significant cuts, but being aware that we will have to keep an eye on expenditures going forward. And this was all kind of planned as we knew that the ESSER funding would be going away. And so we did try to build up a healthy cash reserve just for this reason, knowing that it would most likely have to be utilized this year of all years when those funds went away. So here we have our fund balance, and I just like to put a little graph just to kind of show prior years and kind of where we are. Fund balance is just a nice way of saying cash carryover or equity. So you can kind of see that we have been building this up. Last year we had a large amount of cash carryover, spent down a little bit in the current year, and then projected for FY25 to have about 500,000 at the end of next fiscal year. So very healthy cash balance here. And then going through the appendices, I won't spend much time on this. This is just our 910B5, which is our operational revenue, and it's just showing the increase to the membership and the different formulas. I do have our calendar for next fiscal year, and then lastly our salary schedules. And so I did only include just the teacher salary schedule because that is the only one that the board has to approve. But to give you an idea of how the salary schedules were altered, it was just every cell was increased 3% to accommodate those 3% raises.
Except for numbers.
Except for this, yeah, except for the starting levels.
Yeah.
Those were kept the same. But I know that was fairly quick, but does anyone have any questions? That is pretty much everything for the budget for next year. And as we get the funding from the state, as these grants come in, there'll still be little changes that will happen from now until June 30th. But this operational budget is the main thing that will need to be approved tonight. And then when we do get the application for, say, IDB, for example, we'll present that to the board for approval. But so there'll be little changes from now until then. And if there's anything significant, I'll definitely bring it to the attention of the board.
And not to be a naysayer or anything, but this is the 4-day calendar, the 4-day budget.
Yeah.
Should things not go our way, it may have to change. We think, because the trial day is not till July 2nd. And PED has it in statute that they have to approve all budgets by July 1. So if they do that, but then they turn around and win their court case, I don't know what they'll do if they're gonna make it, you know what I mean? So, but hopefully, this will be our budget.
If that
Just know that it could.
would be very messy.
It would be.
Yeah, because contracts will already have been entered into.
Right.
And budgets would have already been done. So hopefully that does not happen, but very good to communicate that.
We have to revoke it.
Yeah, we would have to, depending, surely they would come up with something, you know, like, let us continue this year, it would wind up
And then
losing,
implement it the
and
following
then implement it the following year or something. You never know.
Does the board have any questions or comments or anything?
No, I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Motion by Mrs. Cole, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Dilla O, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Move on to discussion and approval of a temporary blanket bar.
Right, this is something we do every year, and it's just because in the summer we have to clean up our budgets before board meetings, so any bars we do approve, we'll bring them back to y'all for transparency and everything, but we do need permission to go on and enter them just as a temporary measure, and then we'll, back to August, we'll be back to normal.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No, I mean, it's at the end of the year, it's always a lot of spend down of funds, clean up. And rather than have to call a quorum every time I want to say reallocate money from supplies to something else, that this just gives us the freedom to do that very quickly. And then in July or the August board meeting, we'll just present all the bars that, if any, that we did under this blanket bar approval.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the temporary blanket bar.
Motion by Mrs. Cole, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Mrs. Esquivel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll move on to the last item, discussion and action on disposal of old school buses.
Fran?
We have 2 buses that have reached the 20-year end of life, so we cannot run these students in them. We're just asking for permission to get rid of them and sell them so they're not sitting on our lot. So we'll sell them for the appraised price of $4,000.
And the money goes into the transportation fund, or does that, can that go into different?
We're going to go into operational, wouldn't we?
Goes into operation.
Yeah. The thing with the transportation is like it has to zero, or they just take whatever's extra, so.
You could put it where it can be
I would
utilized.
put it in operational.
Yeah.
Worst case, a capital outlet. Yeah. Good question.
Make a motion to approve the disposal of the old school buses for the appraised price of $4,000 each.
Motion by Mrs. Cole, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Dilla O, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I had a question, sorry. These are activity buses, right? These 2 buses are activity buses?
Yeah, old bus 4 and 5A, the yellow buses,
Okay.
our 2 best running buses.
Yeah.
They are. Pretty much.
We'll get the parts out of us so maybe we can use them later. I'm just kidding.
It's all the emissions stuff and the newer ones.
Alright. The motion carried. I can say that. And the meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Seven.
Okay.